Good afternoon, collectors and friends. Thank you so much for joining me, the doctor, for Trading Card Therapy, episode number 63. So I recently went to the Toronto Expo, which is held twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. But realize that the fall/winter up in Toronto easily means there could be a snowstorm. In fact, I think that's why I haven't gone back to the November Expo in quite a while, because the last time I was there many years ago, I got stuck for a couple days. Although there's worse places to be stuck, certainly. So I had been up there, and at this point, the rumor is it could be as much as 10 years. I think it's 5 years, but I don't know. But a couple people said, I haven't seen you forever. And by a couple people, I mean, there was Brian Wentz from BMW Sports Cards, who had an incredible display, including a 1948 Leaf, Jackie Robinson rookie, graded SGC 9. The asking price, $7 million US, 10 million Canadian. I had to clarify when I was there. And Kevin, a dealer who used to be set up right next to me when I was working for Leland's 18 years ago, 20 years ago. Mark Chuteau was there. Jeremy Lee, of course, was there. And there was just a number of other folks I hadn't seen in a while. Long-haired Larry I get to see every national and a couple other shows as well, including Strongsville just a few weeks ago. So anyway, it was great to not only reminisce, but I also made it up there on Thursday, which meant I was able to make the now infamous Jeremy Lee Thursday night dinner. And it was great because it featured some dealers, lots of collectors, kids, and just people who seemed to be genuinely and generally happy to be not only at that dinner, but also at the convention. And let me tell you, what a convention it was. I mean, on top of the sports cards, you could buy beef jerky, you could buy Swedish berries and Swedish fish, which, in the States, they don't really sell Swedish berries anymore, and certainly grape Swedish fish are can't find those. And different, I would say, things related to like an incredible, I think it was called Panther, related to the hobby. There was an incredible display that they had showing the goods that they would sell you as far as individually sleeving a card all the way up to having a huge jersey that you want to shadow box. Number of auction houses were there. Heritage had a fantastic display. Mark Chuteau and Classic Auctions had a great display. And then there was lots of folks who I didn't necessarily know, and that was the fun of it, because you got to go up to their booth and investigate what they had. And there was anything and everything from vintage non-sport cards all the way up to just an incredible Conor Bedard chase taking place throughout. It wasn't just one room. The convention kind of weaved throughout and then into another room, and then PSA had a big booth, and then there was a TCG area. It's absolutely one of the biggest conventions I've ever been to as far as sports cards are concerned. When I was doing my initial go around, figuring out what I'd like to buy or, at least ask the prices on, I knew I was looking for OPC baseball. And on the one hand, I was really excited to go to the convention for a number of reasons I just stated. But I was very surprised being north of the border in Toronto. Lots of hockey. I mean, no shortage, even pre-war. But very, very little 1970 and earlier OPC baseball. Len Potty, who I hadn't seen in a long time, he had a nice couple groups of ungraded. There was a few other scattered, really great OPC baseball cards, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. I didn't see any complete sets. And a few of the booths, I'm thinking about this one booth that was just maybe north an aisle or two of Long-Haired Larry's booth. And I mean, he had a Hank Aaron in a 6, a Clemente in a 7. And I wanted to buy the Clemente. It wasn't a bad deal. It was just a very ugly 7, wickedly off-centered. So my question is, if you as a collector find a card that you've been looking for, and it's tough to find in high grade, do you buy it anyway, even if you think it's ugly for the grade and you just don't like it? I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to. It was a 1969 OPC Roberto Clemente PSA 7. I think they had the same gentleman had a Hank Aaron 6 or 7, but I just acquired a Hank Aaron PSA 6 1969 OPC of an auction, and I like the example I bought. It was nicer. So in totality, there just wasn't a lot. And the next two cards I'm going to mention, as much as I would have liked both of them, one of them certainly could have made a play on, but the other one definitely not, way out of the realm of possibility. So Brian Wentz from BMW Sports Cards also had an amazing OPC baseball card. I'm going to pause for a second. Think about what that might be. He had a Nolan Ryan OPC rookie, but not just any Nolan Ryan OPC rookie, which, by the way, is already very tough to find, especially in high grade. He had an SGC 10 of that card alongside the 48-leaf Jackie SGC 9. I think he was asking $1.3 million for that, but don't misquote me. You can find out at bmwsportscard.com. I'm sure he'd love to tell you the price. But I knew it wasn't going to be coming home with me. Another individual had only a couple of Peachy cards. The first one really caught my eye. Happened to be, believe it or not, another Nolan Ryan OPC rookie. Who would have thought? Same room, not a lot of OPC baseball, but yet two super high grade Nolan Ryan OPC rookies. This one was a PSA 8. And of course, I was thinking before I asked the price, I'm like, I might have a chance at this. I wonder if it's going to be reasonably priced. I don't even know what I was thinking about reasonable. I was just hoping it sounded or felt reasonable, and then I would have known, at least start checking it out. And so I didn't see the prices on the back. He said $75,000. I said, "Oh, isn't that Canadian?" Is that in Canadian? I made a joke because I roughly know what that would be. I think it's about 30-ish% off. So you're talking about a $50,000 card, US. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, it's practically free." So, I do the conversion. Oh, probably not going to be for the PC, but certainly, if I had a client for that, it didn't seem crazy. I was curious of the pop. I don't know the pop off the top of my head, but when we put this video together, we will put it in the edited version. But then I found it. The OPC Hall of Famer that I wanted to buy and leave with. Before I tell you about that, because I left it there for a little bit, I tried to negotiate, and he said, "We told someone else the same price, and that's the best we can do." So I looked around. I'm going to show you the first OPC card that I did purchase for my PC. When I found this, I love this set in Topps. I certainly loved it in OPC. Check out the first Hall of Famer that I purchased from the Toronto show. A dead nut centered 1975 OPC baseball Nolan Ryan PSA 8. And this card is just a blazer. It really looks like it could be an 8.5 or a 9, which is wild because this issue is impossible. Wax is virtually non-existent. And for those that don't know why I bring up wax is because if there was still some existing wax packs on the market in quantity, maybe the hopes would be we uncover a couple more high-grade Nolan Ryans and George Bretts. But at this point, I don't know how much 1975 OPC baseball wax that's unopened is left on the market. And remember, I was in Canada. I was in Toronto. I saw no 1975 OPC baseball packs or boxes. I didn't see any 73. Jason Martin from Martin Sports might have had a 74 OPC box, but I don't think he did. I could be wrong. Anyway, let me know in the chat, would you like to have the OPC version of this card, or would you prefer the Topps because you're just an old-fashioned, you like the Topps? And I didn't grow up with OPC baseball. I liked OPC hockey, and I knew it was tough. But, man, I just feel like the colors on this pop. Would love to know what you think of this beauty in the chat. Very excited to pick this up. So while I had just purchased this, I now had the OPC fever. But keep in mind, I've now done my due diligence. I've walked around the room. It's possible I missed something. It could be something that's underneath the booth. But I, pretty good at it. I didn't see anything other than what I'm about to show you. Keep in mind, when I first saw this, even though I wanted to leave with it, you just never know if you're going to reach a deal. I was able to find one of the most desirable OPC Hall of Famers that you can get. A 1967 OPC Mickey Mantle PSA 8. Pop 18, there are no examples graded higher. Just a year prior, in 1966 OPC baseball, Memory Lane, who we're going to talk about at the end of the episode, just had a PSA 9 sell at auction. And that was already 5 figures before the end of the auction. I don't know what it sold for. But I was able to reach a deal. And this was interesting. I had offered them cash to try to get a better deal. And they said, no. Then when I went back, I said, well, even though we're off a little bit, I'd be willing to buy it for your asking price if I can pay you via check. And I felt like I knew one of the guys before, or had seen one of the guys before, but I didn't recognize the other one, and I wasn't sure. And I said, I know most of the folks in the room. If you need me to talk to someone and have you introduce yourself to them to make sure that my check will be good. And so they took me up on that offer, and we ironically went to Long-Haired Larry, who's known me for 20 years. And Larry did the proverbial vouch for me, which I appreciated. And so they took my check, and then we started talking a little bit further. I said, do you mind if I do a video? Do you mind if I do a video of your Nolan Ryan OPC rookie in PSA 8? I said, not at all. And I don't know exactly how it got brought up, but he's like, familiar, do you know Scott? I'm like, Scotty Allpaul? He's like, yeah. He's like, I know him from Aruba. I'm like, get the F out of here. Because Scotty used to work for Just Collect and me for, about a dozen years, 10 years or so. And now he works for PSA doing training and such. I believe he's the lead trainer. And Scott goes to Aruba every year for a timeshare. And what a small world. This guy met Scotty in Aruba. And this guy does cards. I don't know if he does it full time, but he has some really great stuff. And I asked him, because I was very curious on the Nolan Ryan rookie, did you get it graded yourself? And he said, no. Because I was curious if anyone's finding like fresh OPC baseball in Canada. Because I'd love to get some, believe me. Anyway, that is my number one pickup from the Toronto show. Mark Chuteau had some amazing stuff at his booth, Classic Auctions. And just random booths throughout the show had amazing items, including Gordie Howe shoulder pads. I even texted my buddy Hef, who owns Leland's, just curious what he thought. I was thinking there might be a deal. Did I sniff a deal? He didn't think so. I'm still not convinced it wasn't a deal. But you let me know what you think in the chat. Was $4,500 US fair? I don't know. The last thing I wanted to share with you about the Toronto show before I get to the Type 1 photos that I bought was I attended trade night very briefly on Friday night because I was there Thursday and Friday, and then I had to leave Saturday morning to get my son. And I didn't stay long, but I saw Ray Schulte there. I met Dr. Collectible in person. He's great. But I loved what was going on there. It was calm, cool, and collect. Some people even had like a little table set up with their wares. And I think that's super cool. I know some dealers are like, I don't like it. It takes away from the show. At the end of the day, I don't think that they make hobbyists and collectors on trees. And so everyone does their thing, and I don't judge. And I think that it was good for the show. It was great to see Ray Schulte there caring about the PR end of things. It was great to see Dr. Collectible caring about getting kids involved and people having a good time. There was a DJ. There was food. I mean, it was happening. If I didn't have plans for dinner, I would have gone there. So I hope that at the National this year, with these trade nights being on site, there's going to be just a little bit more comfortability for folks that maybe are a little bit unfamiliar with it, because when it's a free-for-all, although it's fun, it's a little bit chaotic and hectic. And some people, they don't like that. Purchased every one of these at the Toronto show. First one is, I'm going to show off, it is only my second ever wire photo. My first one is of Bobby Orr. How cool is this? It is of Terry Sawchuk from 1961, just totally outstretched. He couldn't be really stretched more than that, going for the puck, which looks like it hit the back of the net. And I'll just zoom out a little bit. I thought that was an incredible hockey photo. I think this cost me $250 US. All right. Next up, and I'll be candid about this one. I'm not sure that I'll be keeping it, and I don't sell photos. I've only sold 2. But I thought it was a good deal, and it helped, in my mind, subsidize some of the other photos I bought from this gentleman, which I am going to keep because I've been collecting Type 1s for 20 years. Here's a Grover Cleveland Alexander Charles Conlon photo. Now, you might say it's a little bit tattered on the edges, and it is. But the image itself is crystal clear, and it's just gorgeous. And it is from the Baseball Magazine archives, because the original Baseball Magazine sold its archives years ago at auction. And so this is from that archives. So I thought that was a really cool photo. Just really good value. Now, this one I'm definitely keeping. It's my earliest Ted Williams Type 1. It's not his rookie year, but it's close. Here is a 1940 in just beautiful follow-through. Look at the background. I mean, it's really like the way that the photo is set. And it is none other than probably the greatest hitter that ever lived. It is not an 8x10 or a 9x11. It's probably a 7x9. But it's fantastic. What do you guys think so far? Of the first 3, what's your favorite photo? I'm going to read to you the caption. It says, Ted Williams begins training camp at Red Sox camp in Sarasota, Florida. Outfielder hit .327 during his rookie season with the Red Sox last year, shown his batting pose at Boston camp on the opening day of the 1940 training season. So I'm very excited to be able to have acquired this for my collection. What have you guys acquired recently for your PC? All right, the last photo that I'm showing off that I got in Toronto, I got a couple others, but check this out. I love this photo for one reason only. It's a Michael Jordan Type 1 from 1988. I probably paid too much, but this look is like, what are you talking about? Don't even think about it. Like, get the F out of here, bro. You're not going to have none of this. That is the impression I got from this photo. I like, of course, that it is a Type 1. It's not a typical photo I would buy for a number of reasons, meaning it's not necessarily action, but I just really thought that that look on his face, that expression, was awesome. And gives you an idea of what Michael was thinking. Because that is, I mean, that's serious. Not in my house. All right. Thanks for letting me show off some of what I acquired at the Toronto Expo. I did buy more, but this is all I was going to show off today. If you want to learn more about what we buy here at Just Collect, go to our website, justcollect.com, and check out our blog. It's very active, blog.justcollect.com. We don't just talk about collections we purchased. We talk about a lot of things that are going on in the hobby. Speaking of which, wow, if you didn't hear, there was a big situation with Memory Lane and a $2 million group of cards that has gone missing from a package that was shipped, purportedly from Memory Lane to the Best Western Plus in Strongsville, Ohio recently, just before the annual Strongsville Vintage Convention. I have an interesting perspective here. Because when I was checking into the hotel, remember, I went Thursday and Friday up to that show. I did TCT on that a few weeks ago. And in front of me at check-in was Joe Tomasulo from Memory Lane and his associate. And Joe admittedly looked a little bit peeved, a little bit bent out of shape. I didn't really pay attention closely at first, and then it became apparent what was going on. Something was misplaced or lost, but they weren't sure yet exactly. I didn't think much of it. Of course, I hope they got it. And then when I saw Joe at the show, I said, hey, did that thing resolve itself? He said, no, it's on the way back or something like that. And I said, oh, what's all this stuff out here? He said, oh, it's my stuff for sale. And it was cool because I got to see some great stuff, like a Babe Ruth signed 1917 photograph signed on the back, Secretariat memorabilia, and really just incredible early baseball stuff. I didn't think in my wildest dreams that it would have gone permanently missing. And there's a lot of thoughts about it going on. Who's to blame? People who aren't even involved in the auction, meaning as a consignor or a buyer of those items, are mad. You're entitled to be. It's a free world, or at least our country's free. I feel for if anyone is out money, and I understand if the collectors wanted those cards, them being out those cards, even if they got some sort of compensation, it might be in some cases one of the kinds or very rare cards like high-grade Cracker Jacks or tough to find high-grade mantles, so on and so forth. I'm friends with JP and Dan from Memory Lane, and I'm sure that they're going through a lot of stress. And I recently started talking with Joe Moore, and I feel for them because if my team was going through that, I can only imagine what that's like. And so I'm not here to discuss what could have been done, what should have been done, what might have been done, what may have been done, because really it's been discussed at length. But what I want to do is try to take something from it and share with you just a little bit of advice and perspective from me. I don't come from money. I know that I'm crazy in many different ways in the hobby and out of the hobby. One of the things I'm pretty nutty with is insurance. And for example, when I buy things from someone I don't know, even if they're like, hey, you could save some money, do PayPal friends and family. No, PayPal goods and services. It's just better. It's a professional way to do it. You're protected. This is my advice. If you can go through life, whether it be in the hobby, out of the hobby, and deal with things and not worry about insurance, and you can afford to absorb those losses and you don't get stressed about it, I'd say don't change. If your blood pressure doesn't rise from even the notion of it being in the wrong hands, I wouldn't change for a bit. But if you care and you don't want to be stressed, and you've been thinking that, you want to insure your collection, you want to do things right, I'm just going to give you a couple of my own hot takes. And by the way, I'm not suggesting what Memory Lane did was wrong. I just know personally, until I have so much money that I can afford to lose $2 million or deal with insurance, I would carry them with me, even if it meant I had to fly an employee or fly myself, and whatever the case is. But that's not, they may not be practical. They didn't think about it. Who knows? They might have an ironclad insurance policy, and I hope that they do, for everyone's sake, of course. The number one thing, if you're dealing with people over the internet, you pay via PayPal, just use goods and services. Okay. Number two, if you're at a convention, no matter how much someone begs you, myself included, unless you know them, don't take a check. Just don't. Number three, and I verified this before we went live today for Trading Card Therapy, we currently use collectibles insurance services. I'm not giving you the thumbs up or thumbs down, because knock on wood, I don't think we've had anything major. Their website is collectinsure.com. But I know that they will sell collectors policies as well, which will allow you to maybe buy from auction houses, save some money, submit to PSA under your blanket insurance policy. There's a lot of different things that you could do to protect yourself. If you have some questions about some of the things I'm covering today, please hit me up via DM on IG, Leighton_Sheldon, or email me direct, Leighton@justcollect.com. I'd be happy to assist you, to give you my own advice. But let's just take what happened there as a wake-up call for maybe the rest of us and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't have all of our proverbial business in order as far as our hobby goes that we love, that we greatly care for, that we respect, that we have a lot of money in, but that we maybe haven't taken that next step. my advice is, whether it be them, and there's lots of others now, this weekend, start to organize. First step is get in a spreadsheet. And if you want to consign stuff because you have too much after doing that, lots of great auction houses. If you want to sell outright, I believe Just Collect and my company is a great option. There's lots of other good options as well. I'm friends with Steve Hart. I'm friends with Reed and the boys from Dave & Adams. But there are options. So if by doing this evaluation you realize that you have too much, you can do something about it. Of course, in just a few months' time, will be the National Sports Collectors Convention in Cleveland. And I hope to see each and every one of you there. And with that, we wrap up our 63rd edition of Trading Card Therapy.